Oh my gosh, guys. Huge congratulations on this beautiful film. I loved it
Thank
so
you.
much. I mean, what a gorgeous directorial debut. And Camilla, your work was just stunning.
Thank
Huge congrats.
Oh my
thank
gosh, thank
you.
you so much. That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the film is based on the novel of the same name, inspired by the author Cheryl's time spent as Hunter S. Thompson's assistant. And it's a character first story, my favorite kind. Patricia, being an actor who has worked with countless directors, probably some more attuned with the actor's process than others, what excited you the most about honoring the actor's process and integrity of character work in this film?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you're talking about is everything that did excite me. I feel like we've gotten to the point where films are so literal about everything. If you have one of these aspects where there's like a Me Too moment or something, then the whole movie is about that. And everything is so obvious. Every conversation is about that. Where with this, we have so many different things, like in life. We're not aware that we're codependent. We're not aware that we're a people pleaser until it all comes to a head and it's a nightmare problem. We're not aware that we're gravitating to addicts and how charming they are and all these undercurrents of things. Or how is it to be trapped in your own celebrity? Like things for Willem, like, oh, you get love, you get money, you get drugs, all because of this book that you wrote or this period of your life. And you want to be free of that. But everything keeps dragging you back to that. So there's a lot of different conversations and things to think about and look at. And I wanted the freedom of making a film where we're not so obvious anymore,
Mm,
going back in the way to the 70s.
100%. It's such a humanity first story. And it really dives into kind of the complexities of just being a human being and being an artist. And I think Allie begins the film by kind of asking, in the context of the ranch, who am I? And we're kind of as equally as curious as she is. And then as the film develops, we become so intimately involved in her journey toward kind of finding herself as she comes so dangerously close to losing herself and that fine line. I'd love to know from both of you how you kind of work together to kind of explore that like really fine line of losing oneself and finding oneself and kind of the complexities of that because it was so beautifully done.
Cam, you want to start off?
No, you go ahead. I mean, you were able to track it in in great detail. I don't feel like there was really any linear conversation about it. P.
I think that it was sort of very much a part of the writing process of that. And we did have conversations where it was like, this is where she starts and this is where she gets to. But
Mm-hmm.
you don't come to those moments in your life easily. Those moments that kind of break you, they take everything away from you that you think you love and know. When this authentic you starts coming forward and demanding that you really look at the truth and look at reality. Um, but I think I had looked at the beginning of the movie, or even the arc of the movie, maybe in a way, also being like when you go to Pinocchio, goes to this land of the wild boys, and they're drinking and they're smoking and they're laughing and they don't have to go to school and they're having so much fun. And then suddenly they start growing donkey ears and it becomes a nightmare. And then it's like, get me out of here. And that was sort of the trajectory for her too. It was like Alice
Mm,
in Wonderland or going, into the underworld. It all seems really fun, and then all of a sudden it's really not fun anymore. And how do you
right.
get out?
Right. And I think Camilla, your performance and it really drew me in because it was so organic. In terms of like your choices, I found that I was sometimes surprised when she felt more empowered kind of, and then when she was more vulnerable and those times that you kind of played with, again, like Patricia, you said, it comes from this authentic place. And I can only imagine like that's the environment that's been being created on set. that had to have been really creatively collaborative to kind of be so organic with your choices.
I think like what to second what P said is like, okay, we have an idea. I mean, I had an idea of who she was in the beginning, how she dressed, kind of a little bit more quiet and reserved and internal, and maybe not so comfortable in her skin, definitely not sexually. And I knew where she ended as well. And what was important to me, to us, was that you don't watch her and say she's a victim of abuse by Walker Reade. I think that she's an empowered woman who had a once in a lifetime experience and opportunity to work with a deeply intelligent, talented man who's also incredibly troubled, which most times go hand in hand. You know, infamously, the most talented ones are deeply troubled. But how lucky for a young woman in her 20s whose aspiration is to be a writer, whose dream is to be a writer, who's trying to find her voice, to have this opportunity to live amongst this creative genius. But I think it's like we have a beginning and an end, but then everything in the middle was just a matter of playing around with different temperatures, like how to, vulnerable here, or actually, no, maybe it's more of like a fuck you here, and then just playing and trying both and then seeing what works best in the edit. And I also think that it's important to, a lot of times in life, I feel like these experiences, you don't realize how either painful or big they were, or how inappropriate they were until after. With more perspective, you go, oh, actually that wasn't normal, and that's not how people treat each other, and actually, that was actually kind of abusive. And I think that in the moment, and with a young woman who's so hungry and ambitious, you kind of go, well, that didn't feel right, but it's okay. I mean, I've been working since I was like 14, 15, and there's so many times where I'm like, I don't know that felt right. Like, I don't know that that's how that's supposed to go. But only now, in my old age of 27, am I able to look at my 15-year-old self and go, yeah, no, people at work shouldn't make you feel like that. People in your relationship shouldn't make you feel like that. So it's kind of like running on adrenaline. Allie's running on this adrenaline for so much of it. So I don't even know that she's registering till much.
I think
Right.
when you have addiction, and when you have excess, and when you have people with the emperor's new clothes, like living off of you also, and kind of making their way and getting their needs met, whether it's Larry trying to figure out who you are so he can play you in a movie, or what is going on, the boundaries are just a mess. Everyone is going sliding over each other's boundaries. There's no healthy decision making anymore. That's why they say addiction is a family disease, because it really corrupts everything all the way through it. And also, there's many things that we talk about nowadays. These are the hot button topics, like narcissism, or you talk about untreated and unprocessed trauma. Well, that's when he's talking about losing his mom, when he's talking about basically being an orphan. And that's how he fell in love with writing. And, he's also an unprocessed, traumatized kid. So they're both traumatizing each other. And there's just a lot of pain in it, and a lot of creativity, and a lot of closeness. And it's a very confusing thing when you're like, was I a part of that? Did I instigate that? Did I want that? Did I need love so bad?
Right.
Was I feeding that? There's a moment in the movie where he says, what is it? Do you need to
Are you
be?
that desperate for relevance? Yeah.
Yeah, and she says, maybe. It's like,
Right.
that's
Ooh,
so hard to feel and hear and know
To
about.
admit.
Yeah.
right. Right. Oh my gosh. And I could feel all of that. And there's an intensity to it. There's an adrenaline and an energy in the film um that you created that allows for kind of a playground to explore all of these kind of reflective moments in life when that is so messy and chaotic, where it is hard to process in the moment. And I think that's sort of the beauty of storytelling. It allows us to kind of sit back and ask questions, and to kind of see ourselves reflected, or our experiences, and ask, like, wait, was I complicit in this moment in my life, or was I whatever it is? And it allows you to stew and think. And I'm still thinking and stewing on this movie. And like that's the best, right? That's the best.
That's
Why we
totally what I was hoping for.
That's why we love, I mean, my favorite kind of thing is just watching. Even I just saw, adolescence, and I for days was talking about it and thinking about it and kind of reflecting and then asking people's opinions. And my mom had a different opinion than my partner and like my friends. And I think when, Patricia left it a little bit, I love that Patricia doesn't want to make it cookie cutter and like clean and everything's given to you. It's like people are going to have mixed feelings about how they feel about Walker, how they feel about Allie, how they feel about the ending. Great.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to move something in you and stir a conversation.
Exactly.
But there's a tiny little moment at the very end of the movie, which was an improv moment. Like it was just a natural thing she did. But to me, it kind of was perfect because it was like the beginning of an awakening. It was a beginning of consciousness. Like, I'm going to break this fourth wall and I'm starting to wake up.
Are you talking about the moment in her bed when she's looking at her journal?
But no, it's when she turns and looks into the camera at the very end. She's hugging Rose, and then she just looks into the lens, and it's like, okay, I'm going to start waking up to my own life. That transition between a girl consciousness and a woman consciousness.
Right. Yeah.
Not that anyone would want this for anyone, but the truth is, for me, having grown up, at the beginning of the movie, she's packing her bag, and one of the books she puts in is Daughters of Alcoholics, and then she throws it back out. So this has already been a pattern in her life, but she has never been ready to look at it. So she will keep choosing partners like this,
right,
till she realized, like, whoa, what have I normalized my whole life?
Right.
But I feel like that moment that looked in the camera, which was totally accidental and not intentional. I think the story behind that, P, was that I was like, am I done? And I looked at you and I was like, is that a wrap? Because we had done that emotional scene so many times and I like looked and I was like, are we done?
Yeah, but like that feels like that makes sense about like how Allie feels too. She's like, am I done with this chapter? Can I move on? Am I still gonna be feeling this for the rest of my life? Like I feel like it's where like art meets life in that moment. And I'm so glad you kept that in. I feel like that's a genius move because I feel like some people would take that out, but it was that you're right. That's that intimacy too that you can get with the viewer where you go, oh, I have chills thinking about it.
There's these moments like when we were editing. It was interesting. There's a moment like when he gets up to leave. He's been telling her this story about his family. And she's like, let me write this down. And he's like, I'd rather eat a bullet, right? And then he says he's going to take drugs. And the look on her face is like, she's excited about this moment and then so sad that he's going to do that.
Right.
Those tiny little reactions that you don't even aren't aware of, like, that's the fabric of love. That's the fabric of intimacy and where we really see different aspects of these characters. And so there were moments that were so important for me in the editorial process to preserve.
100%.
I actually think that moment where, Allie looks in the camera, you like know that she's going to be okay. You're like, oh, you're okay. You're okay. And some people might have been broken by this experience, but you look at her and you're like, you're good. It's redeemed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I felt. I wanted to give her a big hug. I wanted to kind of like join in. But I wasn't worried about her. I knew there was a lot of healing. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of therapy to come. But I was like, she's gonna be okay. Let's just talk about.
Because we're so resilient. All of us are so resilient.
We are
so much. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care how old you are. We're all
yes.
And I think that these situations, you look back and you go, God, that made me who I am those 3 months with Walker, or this relationship made me who I am, or this experience, it was horrible. It was the worst time of my life. But actually, I'm better because, and I think women have the unique ability to really become who they are based on these difficult.
It was also, Cheryl, who lived this kind of experience. I mean, yes, it's fiction, but heavily influenced by this time. And yeah, she knows it was really hard. She knows it was crazy. She knows there was no boundaries. Also, it was really powerful and wonderful. And she did love him. And, it was a complicated relationship, and she's so grateful for it. And it really was so important to her work as a writer and how she feels about writing. And she learned so much about the process just looking at him and his life. So,
Right.
yeah, sometimes relationships are complicated. They don't just fit into that was good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
even the most difficult relationships in my life, I don't regret them.
Right.
And
Right.
then a lot of the time there's like blood on your hands on both ends, right? Like Walker's got blood on her hands. She's got blood on her hands for overstepping and using his words. And then when she starts to take his personal things he said to her and using them in the writing, and like, they're both guilty. But who's to
That's what
blame?
happens in crazy, again, this kind of thing with the codependent addict relationship and why it's a family disease. The the boundaries just get blurred completely.
And
And
I
so
think,
in this case,
yeah,
there's mutual betrayals.
right. And I feel like too, even in like the quote unquote healthiest relationships, lines are blurred. It's such a human, it's such a human thing to do. And I think like what's so important, to your point, like about how we're resilient is that we share these stories and we lean into the messiness of these stories so we don't bury that shame because that's what happens when we don't tell, when we can lose our voices, we bury it and we don't express it and, allow for it to then be something that we can look back on and say, you know what, it sucked and that was horrible, but it made me who I am and it made me stronger. And that's again the power of storytelling and the power of a film like this. We're not shying away from the messiness and the
No, we
humanity of
want
it.
to have that conversation as human beings.
Mhm.
And I got to have movies like that when I was growing up
Mhm.
that were complicated and, hard. It's hard to see two people at odds. They both want something so bad, they will lie even to themselves to get it.
Right, right.
So,
Um, I do wanna ask, because this is a film also about the artist's journey, about and how difficult and painful it can be and magical, all wrapped up in one. Um, what did you both, if anything, and I'm sure you did, like kind of discover about yourselves as artists working on this project, working together, that you're, excited to continue to explore, as you continue your beautiful careers?
well, I discovered that how many beautiful people I have in my life who
Mm.
contributed. Like all these kids, did the animation in their animation class. And I had different friends like my friend Aaron, who's a professor there. Um, and so there was just a lot of people that came to our aid, gave me notes, other directors, people that I'd worked with. So that also I learned how tenacious I was. Like, no, it's okay. We can do this special effects. I bought this circus plastic reflective material. We're going to make a
Right.
circle and we're going to spin it. And they're like, what are you talking about? Or we're going to lock off the camera. And Willem's, in this mushroom sequence,
Mhm.
Willem's going to be talking in normal speed. She's going to be in slow motion. Sean Penn's going to be in high speed. And then we're going to splice them together. Like all these different kind of ideas that we could do affordably,
Hmm.
I tried to bring to the table. So I do respect my scrappiness.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Absolutely.
you're just scrappy,
Absolutely.
if anything.
But I also
Absolutely.
felt like I was constantly drowning. It was
Mm.
such a big learning curve, and I feel so grateful that so many people taught me along the way, and that my actors were really patient. But I also really cast well, and they were all super talented. So that
Mhm.
I feel like I do know good acting, and they all delivered and more so. So I felt very spoiled by that.
Oh my gosh. I just remembered as you're talking about animation and getting scrappy, the spaghetti moving. I loved that so much. It's so
I
true.
was practicing that at home. I was like, no,
There was
we have
like
to
a,
get a thicker kind of pasta because spaghetti are just guillotines with
I
the
think
throat.
we did bucatini, right? And it like kind of
It did look like a bucatini. Yum. No, it's so true. And I just want to say, I mean, you have, Patricia, to your point about casting, you have one of our greats, Willem Dafoe, and then Camilla, you are just going, you know, toe to toe with one of our greats, and you are just creating just as much magic. And you
no.
are really these scenes with the two of you together that are so, oh my gosh, layered and just nitty gritty and the closeness and again the just the authenticity and I mean it was like it was so matched and because they're like boxing matches, right? And it's like they are so equally matched and I just want you to know I was just so blown away um
Thank you.
truly and um I'm just I've been a fan of yours, but I'm like, oh, this girl, this actor, man, you have all the meatiness inside of you, and I'm just like really excited what comes next too, because
Thank you.
it was superb. And Patricia, as the anchor of this, just as a great actor yourself, it's just what a dream.
But I
Oh,
mean, we
so
can't do this without actors can't do this, young actors can't do this without someone like P vouching for me, watching a bunch of self tapes, maybe seeing more famous names or, more established actresses who the financiers probably would have given her money for. And she was like, no, that's my girl. And it's like we sit there and we pray while we're auditioning every day that someone's going to look at us and go like, I see something in you. Maybe you're not even all the way there, but there's something and it's interesting. And P did that for me. And I you feel like like forever indebted. Like I want to give her my firstborn child for just seeing me because people are so close-minded sometimes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and and she was like, no. And then she didn't just say like this is my girl. She then stuck by me for 3 years in every iteration of this project while it fell apart, while it came back together, while we lost actors.
yeah,
And
we had some
awesome.
funding originally, but they wouldn't okay her. So we lost our funding. But I was like,
Gosh, and
no,
you
I'm not
stood
going to
by her
direct a movie.
side. Oh,
I'm not going to direct a movie and have you dictate who I use as actors because that's what I need
oh.
is actors like this. And for me, when Cammy first auditioned, I was like, that's right. She's right. She's got this understanding deeply of this thing.
Mhm.
But is she too pretty?
Mm.
And then I realized, wait a minute, am I having some weird reverse bias?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're too pretty. It's off-putting. No, sorry, you're so pretty. You're just pretty. Go over there and be pretty. You don't get to be also a good actor. So I was like,
Mhm.
no, that's bullshit. I have got to question that within myself. And luckily, I feel like people who thought, oh, she's a model, when they saw her act and they didn't know her work before, they were, whoa, she's amazing.
Mhm.
People were looking her up. All these big directors that I know who were giving me notes, they were like, she's a movie star. This girl's incredible. Where'd you find her?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I feel vindicated.
Yes.
But I
I'm
feel
just,
like I'll look
yeah.
back on my deathbed and there's very few moments where I will look, and it was like booking my first indie film when I was like 19, and they trusted me to do this film, Mickey and the Bear. I would say Gonzo Girl. And of course, I'm, so grateful to work always, but it's like those moments where you were kind of in a dry spell, where no one was giving you an opportunity, where you were fighting tooth and nail, that somebody was like, I see something in you. My mom is constantly reminding me, like, don't forget Patricia stood by you for 3 years, like that
Oh,
you that woman. And my mom is always like so indebted to Patricia. I'm grateful for her.
Patricia, you need to, I mean, I hope you continue your directing journey
Mhm.
first and foremost. I know that it was hard, but, and also just, we need more people like you in life. We need more people like you in this industry, who,
Thanks.
just, this is why I love hearing these stories of, the behind the scenes. It's so important.
Mhm.
And that you stood by your star who just was so perfect for this role. I can't imagine anyone else. You truly, Camilla, bring such an unexpected life force into your roles that I'm always just so delightfully surprised by. Um,
Thank you.
so freaking keep it up, you two.
Yeah, Patricia, let's keep going. Let's do a sequel.
I mean, Patricia's like, I need a vacation.
I feel like I'm giving birth to this movie, and I have been for like years now. I need to like be done with this movie and then clear my mind and
Well,
not
now
feel.
it's the celebrating. I think now I hope you're both celebrating, enjoying. I'm excited for to share this film. I'm so excited to have conversations. And it's one of the bad things about the job is I get to see all this stuff and then I go, okay, got to talk to someone about it. And then when can I share it? So just thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I could honestly talk to the two of you forever. You're both so lovely and thoughtful and just thank you so much for your time today and your work.
Thank you.
And the premiere is tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
In a few
enjoy it.
hours.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks so much. It was great talking to you.
Oh my
Thanks
gosh.
for all the kind words.
Comes
Thank
from the
you.
heart. Thank you guys.